Everyone, today we're going to do a couple short videos on how to do a manager walk so that you also can cover your rev and your audit that comes through at least every period. So when you walk in the door, we're going to start over in this area because you're going to clock in first. After you clock in, you're going to be looking over here to find anything that could cause a problem with an audit. So here's one particular item. They have to have the name of the product, and they also have to have a day band. That will be counted off as a rev. Also, if you notice on the top of the bottle here, I'll show you a little closer, it has got rough edges. That's called a physical contaminant, and they can count off for that. So we know that those two things we need to address today. So as we continue on down through here, we're going to be looking to make sure that everything is clear. If you have a refrigerator, you're going to open the refrigerator, you're going to pull out all the items in it, and you're going to look under each one and make sure that they're not expired. Don't just look at one or two, you have to look at every single one. It's very important because there's always going to be that one somewhere that does not have a correct date on it. If it does not have the correct date, you are going to leave them sitting out to be thrown away. Put those back. Ensure nothing else in here is open. Everything looks good in here. If you look down here at the gaskets, see how dirty the gaskets are? Make a note that they need to be cleaned. All right, then we're going to walk over this way. Look at our lemonade machine. Lemonade, if it's prepped, has to have a label on it. These two labels are not expired. They're in good shape. So then we move on. You're going to look over here and make sure that when you clean tea urns or when you clean any kind of item, that you take the label off of it. Because if you have a label on there and the audit comes in, they'll count off because I'm sure the label's going to be expired. I continue to look over here at the ice machine, make sure the ice machine's clean. There's a scoop, and always make sure you pull the filter off at night, soak it in sanitizer, and the next morning when they come in, they'll put it on because that way we can keep the mold out of this item here. Over here, you're just going to look to make sure that there's no drinks, there's no chemicals, there's nothing over here that can interfere with anything. And now that I've passed this right here, a lot of you guys keep your sugar container up here. Be sure you open it and make sure there's no scoop inside of there. If there is, please pull it out and put it on top. Now we're going to go to the next section. Back with section number 2, which is going to be your sandwich section and down. First thing I'm going to look at, I'm going to pass is the sink. You want to make sure there's no food in the sink and it's clean. Make sure you have soap, paper towels. Always make sure you have your hand wash sign up here and there's a trash can. So as I move on, I'm going to open this. Now this is first thing in the morning when you come in. When you come in, there should not be anything in your cold unit here. Everything in here should be in the walk-in cooler with the label on it that you prepared it. All of these labels are expired. So that means all of this in here should be thrown away. Plus, if you're going to leave it in here, you must have a lid on it. But if you look at the expiration date on these labels, a lot of this expired at end of day, yesterday. So you don't want to put today's labels on it because it expired yesterday. So we'll go to this cabinet here. We're going to look in here, and again, you have your sauces. You have more coleslaw. So we're going to pull it out. Set it up here. We have open lettuce. The open lettuce must have a label on it. Everything that is open must have an expiration label. We look in here. These are good, they're not open. So again, you're going to look at the dates on each of these bottles to make sure they're not expired. Also, you're going to look on the bottom of these to make sure none of these are expired. Please do not skip any of them. Please look at every single one because again, there's going to be one that might be missed, and if you don't look at each one, you're going to miss one, and I guarantee you the auditor is going to look at each one and they're going to find it. So be sure to look at each one, make sure none are expired. I'm going to put it back over here. Those are good. Now, one thing we got to look at the gaskets. This gasket's not too bad. It's a little dirty, but not bad. But this gasket is torn. the auditor will take off for a torn gasket. So we want to make sure that we let our GM know and our DM know that the gasket's torn so we can get a new one. So as I walk through here, I'm going to turn on one fryer. I do not want to turn on all the fryers at one time because of the power surge. So I would turn on one fryer. I would go over here and turn on the bread griller. I would start filling my container here of water. This is on and there's no water in it. So again, make sure this is turned off at night because there's no water in it. That's what burns up our motors. Also, we have tools left in here. The best thing to do is once they're washed, please leave them in the bag. Don't leave them up here in this. The refrigerator is the next thing I'm going to touch, which is the freezer. I'm going to look at the gaskets. They need to be cleaned. Make sure they're not torn. If they're torn, you need to let someone know so we can replace them. Everything in here looks good. It's the freezer, so you're in good shape here. Then we go next to our refrigerator. We have our labels up here about the biscuits, which is fine. Here you have butter. If you look on the label, the butter says end of day. We do not save butter overnight, so that is to be thrown away and that is to be washed. Bacon has a label, which is good. Biscuits have the label, this has a label. And all your biscuits are lined up. The next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna look at this gasket. This gasket should be clean. If you wipe these gaskets down every day with a sanitizer towel, it doesn't take long to do that. If you let them get really dirty, that's when the work begins. So, and on here you have your biscuits, which is good. So if we go over here, we're gonna look again and we have butter, which if you look on the expiration date, it says end of day, which means end of day, you must throw it away. So we're gonna go over here to our unit here. This has water in the bottom of it. The drain hole is right here. Really simple to do. It should be drained every night. The next day, whoever comes in puts hot water in there before they turn it on. We're also going to look at the gaskets here. Always look at here to make sure that nobody left any food in here overnight, because that has happened. I'm also going to check my microwaves to make sure there's nothing in the microwaves. And if you look here, I have labels on here. I'm going to pull them off because there's nothing in there, so you don't want to leave your label on here for an auditor to see an expired label. So in looking over here, everything looks pretty good over here. This pan, any kind of pan that's sitting out, has to be flipped over. It cannot be facing up, because if it does, then you can get counted off on an audit. Over here, great idea to put all your pans over here, but again, if they're facing up, they're going to count off for them. All your pans must be facing down. As you can see, a lot of water poured out of that one. So this is wet stacked. They will count on that as a food safety hazard. So we want to make sure that we don't wet stack any dishes at all. I'm going to open the oven. Another thing to make sure just there's nothing in there, for one thing. Nothing in here. Now as I go along, I'm turning all this equipment on. Now I find down here a chemical bottle. Chemical bottles have to be on a chemical shelf or on a shelf that does not contain any food or anything that it comes in contact with food. As you notice down here, we have sanitizer towels. Chemicals cannot be near sanitizer towels. Over here we have open butter, which has a label on it. Great job. I'm going to come over here to the CVAP unit, and I'm going to take all the labels off of it because, of course, there's nothing in it. So I'm going to remove all the labels, and then I'm going to turn it on and let it fill up. All right, so I'm going to check the ice machine. Is my ice bucket upside down? Yes, it is. Is my scoop upside down? Yes, it is. Make sure that anything around the door is clean. So you want to wipe down your ice machine in the front, very good, to make sure it's all clean and nothing's wrong with that. So then we would go into the freezer and look to see if anything's sitting on the floor or if there's anything that we need to pay attention to at the time. So we're going to go to the next section. Going into our next section, we're just making a circle around the inside of the store. We're going to go to the hand wash station because we're passing it. Make sure there's no food inside of it, it's clean. Make sure you have paper towels. Make sure you have soap. Trash can. The big item here that you have to be careful of is if you look, it is blocked. It is a safety hazard and a food safety hazard. They will count off for that. Also, if you notice the mop, all mops must be turned upside down so that these dry and they can't be on the floor. So we don't want to leave this here because we want to make sure we put it in the back, in the mop sink with it up so it can dry. So temporarily, I'm going to stand it right here because we're going to walk into the cooler. All right, so first thing I'm going to look at is the handle. We do not go in the walk-in cooler with gloves on. It states so on the door. Make sure your team knows they can't wear gloves in a cooler. The handle here, they're going to count off for, that's a food safety issue. So when you open the cooler door, I'm going to look at the gaskets, make sure they're clean, make sure they're not torn. Very important. As we walk in the cooler, this is what's very important. You have to take one section at a time. You cannot just glance at the cooler and see what's right and what's wrong. So if I start here, I'm looking for labels on everything. I don't have a label on this one. I have labels on the majority of them, but I'm missing labels. By missing labels, that is a audit food safety hazard. Is that good? Is it bad? When was it put together? When was it put in the pans? We don't know. Also on the top, I have pans with no labels. So this is something I would have to fix. Either throw it away or find out when it was put up. Me, I'm going to throw it away. All right, next section. I'm going to go over here. There's labels on this section here, on this tray, so we're good. I'm going to look at this section here. We have labels on those. Be sure to look at the label. They all have to have a kill date. So you want to make sure it has a kill date on them for all the chicken. Up here we have pans that have product in them with no labels. Again, let me emphasize, if you prep it, if you pan it, if you open it, you must put an expiration date and label on it. So then I would go to my top shelf here and work my way down. If you notice, I have prepared product in here. Some have labels, some do not. Everything must have a label, so they would count off for that. Look in here, in the pan, I have already cooked macaroni and cheese. We do not hold cooked macaroni and cheese. We use it on the same day. We don't carry it over. You're going to look at your bottles, make sure there's dates on them. Move to the next shelf, into the bottom shelf. Pickles, they're not open, so that's good. Then you move to the next section. I'm going to look up at the fans because they're looking for dirt on the fans, and these fans need to be cleaned. They will count off because that is a physical contaminant. So I go over here to these. These are expired. So I would move them to the front so I could see them. Bacon's not open. This is expired. If anything is open, as I stated before, you must have a label. This is open with no label. This one's open with no label. These 4 pans have labels, nice job. Then I go to my next shelf. I'm looking for anything that's open. Nothing's open. I go down to my batters, and I'm looking for labels, and I have labels on my batters. They have water in here, which is great. You can go ahead and get your batter made early in the morning. It'll probably temp. When I look over here, I'm looking for labels. So if I open this up, let's just turn the one around. I have a label. I have a label on that one and that one. So nice job here. I have labels on those. Then I go to this section here. These have labels. One thing to be careful of, make sure you don't have double labels because they'll count off for double labels. You only need one label on the time that you open it. So be careful with that. But overall, there's some opportunity here in this cooler. Let's move on to the next section. We're going to walk past the flour container usually. Is there a scoop down there? Yes, there is. and that is a food safety hazard. The scoop must be on top, cannot be in the product. I'm going to walk in here to the sink. I'm going to do the same thing. Is there food in the sink? Is there soap? Is there paper towels? There is. And I also have a hand washing sign. Okay, so now when you get to over here, you're going to walk to your mop sink first if that's the first thing you come to. Do you have your mops flipped up correct way? No, they're not. They're down this way. The mop should be flipped up and drying this way. So please ensure that that is done. Over here, if you come to this next, I'm looking to see if this has the gasket on it. If it does, the gasket must come off. It's a food safety critical. You will take that off. Make sure this opening is always in the down position. I'm going to look at my sinks to make sure they're clean or dirty. It doesn't matter whether they're clean or not in the morning. You're supposed to wash, rinse, and sanitize every sink. This is your food sink for food only. If you pour out pickle juice, if you pour out gravy, everything must go in the food sink. This sink here is your 3-compartment sink. Wash, rinse, sanitizes. It's for dishes only. We don't pour food down in here. We only put dishes in the sink. So therefore it has to be washed, rinsed, and sanitized every single sink. When I get through with that, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to run sanitizer. So sanitizer is supposed to be 75 degrees. So when I turn it on, I'm going to have a thermometer and I'm going to ensure that we're at 75 degrees. Then I'm going to close it off. Now I'm going to let it run while I finish looking at the rest of this area. Over here, if you look at these, I have dishes that are supposed to be clean, but they have a label on them. So the auditor is going to say they're not clean because the label was not removed. So again, if you have pans that have labels on them, they will count off on the red. They're going to look to see if any of your pans are cracked or broken. This is flipped upside down. And again, everything must be upside down. Nice job here. Nice job there. The only thing concerns me is going to be this here. It doesn't have holes in the bottom of it. So when they wash the dishes and they put everything in this container, does it have water in the bottom? Let's see. All right, so these are supposedly clean. So I'm going to take everything out because an auditor will do this also. They'll take everything out. So now look in the bottom of that. Is that clean? We have clean dishes in there, but that's not clean. Also, it's torn and broken. The auditor will count off for that. So as I continue to look around, am I neat, clean, and organized? We're in good shape here. Looks nice over here. Over here, you're looking at all the supplies and their chemicals. All the chemicals have labels on them, so they're good there. Then I'm just going to glance over here to make sure that all these are not on the floor and everything's working there. All right. We're coming on is going to be the fryer batter area. You're here first thing in the morning. You know it's not set up, which is a good thing, because that way you have a chance to look to see if everything is clean. We've already checked the hand wash and we know that it's okay, but now we're going to look at the fryer area. This is a great example of what not to do. Do not put grease in it like this. That grease is supposed to be cut down and broken up so that it goes down into the fryer. If you have it sitting up here like this and let it melt into the fryer, you're going to burn up the motor. So it's very important that when you put this block of grease in here, you cut it up into smaller sections. Also, please, only turn on one fryer at a time. So I would turn this one on, get this cut down, let that come up, then probably 15 minutes later, I would come and turn the next one on. 15 minutes after that, turn the next one on. So you gradually turn your fryers on a little bit at a time. Now, when you come to this section over here, one thing an auditor will check is your brush. Does it work? A lot of times, they turn this off at night and unplug it. Please make sure that you check it when they get it all together to make sure it's plugged in. If this does not work when the auditor's here, whether it's plugged in or not, they're going to count off if it doesn't operate. So you definitely want to make sure that your brush is operating. So we go along to your fryers, everything else looks good. Back over to your batter section, I'm gonna open this, I'm gonna look in here, and I'm gonna find another scoop. And again, the scoops must be on top at all times, they cannot be in the bottom. But a good rule of thumb is, guys, those scoops are supposed to be washed every night. So at the end of the night, have your cook take them out of the flour and the batter, put them in the bag and get them washed so they'll be clean for the next day. All right, you're gonna look at all of this, make sure this works here. It does, so it's still plugged in. And remember, if you're coming in on second shift and you do your walk, all this is already gonna be set up. So make sure you have a thermometer, that you're able to check the temperatures of each item to make sure they're 40 or below. Definitely check your batter to make sure it's 40 or below. And also make sure that your flour has been sifted. They will count off from that if there's a lot of lumps inside of it. So you, as a second shift manager, you're actually looking for food safety temperatures. Very important. When you come around to the corner, you're now here at the office. So at the office part, what are we gonna do? We're gonna run our prep chart, our cupping chart, and our, if you don't have a schedule posted, make sure you have one posted. How many are you supposed to have posted? 3 schedules for 3 weeks. So please make sure as a GM that that is done. All right, once you're there, we're gonna come around the corner. You're gonna turn on this. You're gonna check to make sure it's clean. Make sure there's no chemicals up here. This will be points off. We cannot have sauces in a bag. The process and procedure is 1 bag, 2 bottles of sauce. So if the auditor sees this in the bag, they will count off for it. Plus it has no expiration date, no sticker, and it's not in the refrigerator. So there's a lot of things wrong with that. And a lot of people do this, and this is something that we can't do. We've got to stop doing this. Take 1 set of bottles, fill them up, get the other bottle, fill it up, and then put 1 set in the refrigerator. You'll have a different expiration time. Have 1 set out here. The set out here, when it gets empty, just pull the other set out of the refrigerator. Don't fill that 1 bottle. That bottle should be washed. And I've seen people put new sauce into an old bottle. We shouldn't do that. All the bottles should be washed out. When the second bottle gets empty, then now you open a bag, you fill up both bottles. 1 goes in the cooler, 1 goes up front with new times on it. So, when we move over here, make sure that this is not on. You're going to turn everything on again as you walk through. Again, it has to have 2 bands. It has to have a day band, it has to have what the product is. Also, this one's cut, so you're looking at a physical contaminant on that one. Then you're going to turn this on. And so guys, as we get around here to this end part, it's pretty simple. Your manager walk doesn't really begin here at the inside. It really begins on the outside of the parking lot. When you pull in the parking lot, you don't have to get out and walk around the parking lot. Drive around the parking lot. Are my dumpster gates open? If they are, get out of your car and close them. Look for any potholes. Look for any trash. Anything that catches your eye, that will catch a customer's eye, make a note of that so when your team comes in, you can address that. So the next section we're going to get to in just about 2 seconds is going to be the lobby and the bathrooms. Once we come out of the inside, we're going to go into the bathroom. So we go in the bathroom. The first thing that people look at, of course, is the sink, floor work. We have soap. Nice job here. We have water. Nice job here. We look in the bathrooms. If you go in here, there's one thing that we've got to make sure we do at night. Guys, you can't leave chemicals in the bathroom. Chemicals must be on the chemical shelf or in the back. You can't be left in places. Customers get a hold of these. You're also looking to see if anything's broken. So the lid of this is broken, and then we go to the paper towel holder, to the toilet roll holder. Seems like it's okay, so why can't we put the toilet paper into the holder? It should not be out of the holder. We'll go to the next stall, look at it. Somebody has thrown paper towels down in the toilet. Please don't flush the paper towel. Make sure you get on gloves and you take that paper towel out of the toilet so it doesn't stop it up. Now, one thing everybody forgets to do, auditors don't look here, they look up. So I'm looking at the walls to make sure there's no holes. It has to be bigger than 1 inch. That's about an inch, so they're not going to count off for that. We have a hand washing sign. The lights are working. The vent is clean. If you come in here to this vent is dirty. It should be cleaned. That's very dirty inside. So we'll go into the next stall. Look at that vent. No vent. And this one, we're good. All the lights are on. Be sure you look up as well as you look at the floor and at the bottom. All right, that's the women's. Let's go to the men's. All right, in the men's bathroom, one thing the auditor's going to count off for is the silver here on the mirror. There's nothing you can do about that, but you just want to make sure you make a note of it, let your GM know so they can let your DM know. Do you have soap? Do you have water? You got a blower? There are hand towels. You'll walk in here. Then you're going to look to see this is kind of a disaster. So you're going to make sure that when your team comes in, we get someone in the bathroom right away. Again, look up. You're pretty good there. That's less than an inch. My lights are working. My vents need cleaning. All right. Come out here. My lights are working. I don't see any major holes in the wall. That vent's pretty good. Not bad shape. All right. So let's move on to the next section. We've checked both bathrooms. So when we come out here to the lobby, you're going to make sure the first thing they look at is what is the guest looking at when they come into the lobby. They're looking at the front counter because that's where they're going to get food. So you want to check your baseboards, make sure they're clean, make sure your counter is clean, which that's a nice job there. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to open this door, and surprisingly, I'm going to pull this out, and we need to mop in the trash can area. Don't just mop the floor, you've got to mop inside. That's where food gets and that's where your smells come from. So you want to make sure you mop inside. Keep coming around, I'm going to look at this. What do I need my team to do? I'm pretty good stocked here, but I need to fill it up to make sure it's stocked. Look under here, check under here. I have a trash can over here. So I do need this filled up a little bit, but overall it looks good. Here again, nozzle must come off at night, must be soaked with sanitizer and left off so that the next day your employees know that's been cleaned and they can put it back on. That's what you get from Salmonella typhi. So we want to make sure that's nice and clean. Next thing I'm going to look at is are my tables clean? I'm not going to do a full audit. That's not my purpose today. My purpose today is to see if it's clean. So are my tables clean? Are my chairs clean? So overall, it's clean. Now, if I was an auditor and I really wanted to be picky, I don't know if most of you guys know, but some of you do because you've dealt with me. These benches come out. And if you look behind there, that's where a lot of food gets. So when they do the lobby at night, they should pull these out and they should sweep and mop behind these. They're not that heavy. If I can pull them out, I'm sure somebody else can do the same thing. But all of these benches come out. And you may not know that, which is something I need to show you. Do all your lights work in here? All your lights are working. Still clean here. One thing you might want to notice, I noticed, the table's peeling underneath. Let your DM know, let your GM know if you're a shift manager, that's peeling off because we need to get that fixed. Clean, pretty cleaner. My seal's clean. There's a couple flies on here. We want to make sure that we wipe that down in the morning to make sure it's clean. You're just checking to see, is your lobby ready for guests when you open the door? I don't expect you to clean it right now, but you have that mental note that you got to get somebody out here to wipe down your lobby. Okay, the key thing is, my favorite thing, high chairs. High chairs, you don't use a lot of them, and sometimes they might not be used at all. But if you see this one's been used, it's dirty. So how to tell if it's dirty or not? After they're clean, if you will connect the safety belt and lock it up, as so, when the guest comes in, they're going to unfasten it, correct? Put their baby in it. I guarantee you they're not going to fasten it back after they let their baby out. So by this not being fastened, you know that somebody's used it and we need to clean it. So very important on that one. Also make sure we clean the legs, here and underneath. If you have a swing bar like this, you want to make sure your stools are clean, make sure the legs are clean, make sure your bar is good. We did get counted off for one of these being loose one time. This one, like it's loose. We need to make a note of that and let our GM know so we can get that fixed. The screws are coming out. So believe it or not, the auditor did count off for that on one of their audits. Then you're back up here. Don't forget to look in these trash cans. You want to make sure that they're clean. There's no food in there. They're pretty clean. Again, when you have food and dirt in the bottom of these, it's not so much the trash can smells, it's the inside of this cabinet. We stocked up here, we're in nice shape. You have 3 bars here. Same thing with this side. This door opens over here on the side. I'm going to open the door. I'm going to pull out the trash can, make sure it's good back there, and I'm going to close it. And guys, this walk should take you, if you're not even fixing anything, 20 minutes. If you're having to go back and fix things, like missing labels in your walk-in cooler or throwing product away, you've got to get that done before 10 o'clock because the auditor can come in at 10:30. And if he comes in at 10:30 and you don't have everything fixed, then you're already lost on the audit and you've already scored bad. So fix everything as you go along. It'll take you a little bit longer, but it'll be well worth it in the end. Hope you guys enjoyed the videos. If you have any questions, always feel free to give me a call. Thank you guys and have a great day.